Namaskaram, help. It sounds like such a noble word, isn't it? We've all been told since childhood that helping others is a virtue. And yes, it is, but not always. There are times when helping someone is not an act of compassion, it is an act of foolishness, even cruelty. Help should come from awareness, not emotional compulsion. This statement may sound simple on the surface, but it touches the very core of how we often misinterpret kindness. Most people think that helping others is always good, that offering a hand, money, time, or energy to someone in need is automatically a virtuous act. But is that really the case? Is all help truly helpful? Or can it sometimes become a trap, both for the giver and the receiver? We must understand that emotional compulsion is not the same as compassion. Compassion comes from a place of clarity and inner stability. Emotional compulsion, on the other hand, comes from a need to feel good about ourselves. Often when people rush to help, it is not because they see the situation clearly, but because something inside them is unsettled. Maybe they can't bear to see suffering. Maybe they want to be liked, appreciated, or seen as a good person. Whatever the reason, if your act of helping is driven by your own emotional need, then it is not truly selfless. In fact, it may not even be wise. To help someone effectively, you have to see the whole picture. You have to observe not just the surface problem, but the patterns that created the problem. Does the person actually want to change? Are they willing to make the necessary effort? Are they using your help to grow, or are they using it to avoid responsibility? These are not questions that can be answered if your vision is clouded by emotion. Emotion distorts perception. When you act purely out of emotional reaction, you may overlook important signs. You may ignore red flags. And in doing so, you may end up pouring your energy into something that does not bring transformation but stagnation. Let's take an example. Imagine a man who is constantly in debt. He comes to you asking for money. His voice trembles. His eyes are full of desperation. And your heart responds. You give him money. He thanks you. A few weeks later, he's back again. Same story. And again you give. At some point you may begin to feel drained, maybe even taken advantage of. Then you discover that this man has a pattern of poor decisions. He gambles, he overspends, he avoids responsibility. Your help didn't help him grow, it simply enabled his dysfunction. Why? Because it wasn't given from awareness. It was given from an emotional urge to do something. When you act from awareness, your approach becomes very different. You listen deeply. You look at the reality, not the appearance. You ask, what is the best way to serve this person, not in this moment of crisis, but in their life as a whole? Sometimes the best help is not to give at all. Sometimes it is to challenge them, to say no, to let them face the consequence of their action. That may not feel good to your emotions, but it may be the most loving thing you can do. Awareness also protects you from being drained, because if you're helping everyone who cries, who complains, who looks helpless, you'll soon find yourself exhausted. You have only so much energy, time, and resources in this life. To give them wisely is not a lack of compassion, it is intelligent compassion. Helping from awareness means you preserve your balance while offering what is truly needed. This is especially important when you are in a position of influence, whether as a parent, a teacher, a leader, or even just a friend that others rely on. People will come to you with their pain, their chaos, their mess. If you're not stable within yourself, their emotion will become your emotion. You will start reacting instead of responding. And reaction, by its very nature, is blind. Response is conscious. Reaction is about the past, about your triggers, your conditioning. Response is about the present, about what is appropriate, what is effective, what is truly needed. Helping from awareness also means you are not trying to fix people. You are simply being available as a presence, as a support. There's a big difference. When you try to fix someone, you make them dependent on you. You position yourself as the savior and them as the victim. But when you act from clarity, you understand that each human being has their own journey. You can offer a hand, but they must walk. You can open a door, but they must enter. Many people fall into the trap of compulsive helping because they confuse it with love. But true love does not mean constantly rescuing someone from their problems. It means seeing them as capable. It means respecting their strength, even when they have forgotten it themselves. It means allowing them to struggle if struggle is what will make them stronger. Emotional compulsion cannot do that. Emotional compulsion wants instant relief. It wants to see tears turn into smiles, pain turn into comfort. But life is not always about comfort. Sometimes discomfort is the very thing that wakes a person up. So, the next time you feel the urge to help someone, pause. Ask yourself, am I seeing clearly? Or am I reacting emotionally? Will this action truly serve them or just make me feel better? Am I doing this from wisdom or from the fear of being seen as unkind? These questions require honesty. They require you to go beyond your emotional reflexes and touch something deeper within you. Only then does help become an act of real love, not just a performance of kindness. Not everyone who asks for help deserves it. This statement might sound harsh, even cold to someone who has been taught to always extend a helping hand. But life, in its rawness and intelligence, does not operate on sentiment alone. It functions on discernment, on the principle of cause and effect, on the clarity of intention and consequence. When someone comes to you for help, it is easy to assume they are a victim of circumstance. It is easy to feel that their suffering must be relieved. But if you do not look deeper, if you do not understand the nature of their situation and the choices that led them there, your help may not only be wasted, it may even become harmful. To deserve help does not mean to be perfect. It does not mean to never make mistakes. It means being willing to take responsibility. It means having the readiness to change, to grow, to transform one's condition. A person who is stuck in self-pity, who blames the world for every misfortune, who resists every opportunity to evolve, such a person is not yet ready for help. They may ask for it, they may even beg for it, but they are not in the mental or emotional state to receive it with the right intention. Deserving help means being in a place where help can create movement. If a person is standing still by choice, clinging to their limitations, then any external support will simply sink into that inertia. It's like pouring water into a pot with no bottom. It just flows through. No matter how much water you pour, it never fills. Helping someone who refuses to change is not compassion, it is futility disguised as virtue. Many people fall into the habit of helping indiscriminately because they have not cultivated the inner space to observe. They confuse asking with deserving, but asking is easy. It costs nothing to ask. A person can ask for your time, your energy, your money, your attention, all without any real desire to use it meaningfully. Deserving is something else. Deserving requires effort. It requires accountability. It requires the willingness to rise, even if one has fallen 1,000 times. It is not about judgment. It is about readiness. Let's say someone is drowning and you throw them a rope. That rope is help. But if the person has no intention of grabbing it, or worse, if they try to pull you into the water with them, what are you really doing? Are you saving them or are you both sinking? In such a case, wisdom says, only throw the rope when the person is ready to hold on. Only help when there is at least a flicker of willingness within them to save themselves. Sometimes people don't actually want to be helped. They want to be pitied. They want your emotional investment, not your solution. They seek your attention, not your wisdom. Helping such people can become a cycle. They come to you with a problem, you offer a solution, they reject it. Next time, the same problem comes back. Again, you try to help. Again, they resist. Over time, you become entangled. You start feeling responsible for their stagnation, and they start depending on your energy to sustain their helplessness. This is not help. This is a transaction of emotional codependence. You give because you want to feel needed. They take because they don't want to grow up. In such dynamics, both people lose something essential. One loses clarity, the other loses strength. True help must never create dependency. It must empower. And empowerment is only possible when the one being helped is willing to stand. There's another kind of person who asks for help, not out of need, but out of manipulation. They use the language of suffering to control. They wear the mask of helplessness to gain advantage. These people know how to trigger your empathy. They know what to say, how to act, what tone of voice to use. They are not seeking your help, they are seeking your submission. And if you fall for it, you become a tool in their game. It is not cruel to refuse such a person. It is wise. Refusing to help someone who is using your compassion as a weapon is not lack of heart, it is protection of energy. You must be able to distinguish between genuine pain and performative pain. Between those who are in a tough phase of life and those who have made a lifestyle out of crisis. This discernment is not easy. It requires silence inside you. It requires the ability to observe without reacting. If you yourself are full of emotional noise, you won't be able to see clearly. You'll jump in to help wherever there's a cry, and in doing so you may drown in situations that never required your involvement. Some people need space, not saving. Some people need consequence, not comfort. Some people need to hit the bottom, not be lifted halfway. When a person is ready to transform, they will take even the smallest help and turn it into a doorway. But when someone is committed to their limitations, you can give them a palace and they'll find a way to burn it down. Deserving help means being aligned with change. It means being receptive. It means saying, I am ready. I may not know the path, but I am ready to walk. Show me, and I will go. That is the kind of person who deserves your energy, your effort, your time. Anyone else, no matter how loudly they ask, no matter how convincing their tears, must be met with stillness, not reaction. Helping the wrong person can cause more harm than good. This is a truth that many people learn the hard way. The desire to help is noble, but when it is not accompanied by wisdom, it becomes reckless. In life, not all suffering is accidental. Some suffering is chosen, consciously or unconsciously. Some people walk into fire again and again, even after being burned. If you try to save them each time without reflection, you may end up feeding the very pattern that is destroying them. There are individuals who do not learn through advice or support. They only learn through consequence. Every time you protect them from the results of their own actions, you rob them of the opportunity to grow. You stand between them and the lesson life is trying to teach. Your help becomes interference, not assistance. It is like picking a butterfly out of its cocoon before it has fully emerged. It may seem kind, but in truth you have crippled its wings. Not everyone is ready to be helped, and not everyone wants to be helped. Some people only want to avoid discomfort, not transform their condition. If a person is constantly making poor choices, neglecting their responsibilities, hurting others, or indulging in harmful behavior, and you continue to rescue them, your help becomes an enabler. It makes their dysfunction easier to maintain. It shields them from facing the mirror. You may feel good for being there for them, but your presence may actually be reinforcing their weakness. They fall and you lift them. They fall again and again you lift. At some point you must ask, am I helping them rise or am I just postponing their fall? True help demands observation. You must watch how a person responds to your support. Do they take your help and move forward, or do they simply return to the same behavior? The wrong person is not necessarily evil or bad. They are simply someone whose current state of mind is close to transformation. They may be stuck in self-pity, addiction, blame, or denial. When your help goes to such a person, it does not land. It evaporates. Or worse, it becomes a tool for them to continue in the wrong direction. Imagine a person with a deep wound, but instead of treating it, they keep scratching it, making it worse. If you keep giving them bandages while they continue to injure themselves, what is the point? You are not healing them, you are just cleaning up the mess they insist on creating. Some people are attached to their suffering. Their pain gives them identity. Their problems give them attention. Without crisis, they feel invisible. And if you try to remove the problem without shifting their mindset, they will recreate it again. Because for them, the problem is not the issue, it's the excuse. In some cases, helping the wrong person does not just harm them, it harms you, it drains your energy, clouds your clarity, and entangles you in their drama. You begin to take on their emotions, their chaos, their burden, and slowly, without realizing it, you become part of their cycle. You begin to suffer with them, for them, and sometimes even because of them. This is not compassion, this is emotional entrapment. It is one thing to feel empathy. It is another to allow someone else's dysfunction to rule your inner space. People who repeatedly refuse to change often become dependent on those who help them. They learn that if they fall, someone will catch them. If they fail, someone will fix it. This kind of safety net, when given to the wrong person, becomes a trap. It creates emotional laziness. Why make the effort to grow when someone else will always carry the weight? Why take responsibility when others will clean up the consequences? In such dynamics, the helper is not lifting the other, they are being used as a crutch. There are also cases where the wrong person becomes resentful of the help they receive. They interpret it as control, interference, or judgment. Instead of gratitude, they respond with hostility. Instead of reflection, they project blame. They twist the intention of your support and turn it into something ugly. In these situations, your help not only goes to waste, it becomes ammunition against you. What you offered in goodwill is used to create conflict or manipulation. Helping the wrong person can also distort your own sense of purpose. When you see no result from your efforts, you may begin to question your own worth. You may feel frustrated, disillusioned, or emotionally numb. You may start to think that kindness is pointless or that people never change. But the problem is not your kindness, it is its direction. Misplaced help is like planting seeds in barren soil. No matter how good the seeds are, they will not grow where the ground is not fertile. You have to become selective, not in a cold or judgmental way, but in a wise and compassionate way. Observe where your energy is best used. Notice who makes use of your support to evolve, and who uses it to stay stagnant. Offer help where there is readiness, openness, and humility. With others, offer space, silence, or even distance. Because sometimes the absence of help becomes the loudest teacher. When you help someone who is ready, a small gesture can lead to a great transformation. But when you keep helping someone who is not ready, even the greatest effort can vanish into a void. You must learn to differentiate between the two. Not everyone who struggles needs to be saved. Some need to find their own strength. Some need to meet the edge of their suffering in order to finally rise. Your role is not always to prevent the fall. Sometimes your role is to trust that the fall itself will awaken something that your help never could. Boundaries are a form of wisdom, not selfishness. This is something many people struggle to understand, especially those who are deeply empathetic or emotionally sensitive. It is a widespread idea that love means saying yes, that kindness means always being available, and that compassion means self-sacrifice. But life does not work that way. Just like the human body maintains its health through clear boundaries, what it allows in and what it keeps out, the same applies to your emotional, mental, and energetic well-being. If you do not set boundaries, you will be pulled in every direction, drained by every request, and burdened by every emotional storm that passes through someone else's sky. To say yes to everything is not generosity, it is confusion. It means you have not taken the time to know yourself, your capacity, your limits. Without boundaries, your energy becomes scattered, your presence becomes diluted. People begin to take you for granted, not because they are bad, but because you have taught them to expect your constant availability. And slowly your inner space, once filled with clarity and strength, becomes cluttered with the weight of obligations that are not even yours to carry. Boundaries are not walls. They are not coldness or rejection. They are filters. They define where you end and where someone else begins. They help you recognize what is truly your responsibility and what is not. When you create a boundary, you are not closing your heart, you are organizing your energy. You are saying, I wish well for you, but I must also care for what is within me. This is not selfishness. In fact, it is the most respectful thing you can do for yourself and for others. People often associate love with overextending. If you love someone, you must always be there. If someone needs you, you must respond. But real love is not about being endlessly available. It is about being present in a meaningful, conscious way. And presence is only possible when you have not depleted yourself through constant giving. Without boundaries, even love turns bitter. You begin to feel resentful. You give, but with a tired heart. You show up, but with a heavy mind. What began as care becomes compulsion. What started as connection becomes obligation. Many people don't realize that when they violate their own boundaries in order to please others, they are not being kind, they are being dishonest. You say yes, but inside you mean no. You smile, but inside you are tired. You agree, but inside you feel resistance. This inner split, if sustained over time, leads to frustration, burnout, and emotional collapse. True kindness cannot grow in such a fragmented space. It needs integrity. It needs the courage to be honest about what you can give and what you cannot. Sometimes people around you will not understand your boundaries. They may see them as distance or rejection. They may accuse you of being cold or uncaring, but that is their perception, shaped by their own needs and expectations. You are not responsible for managing other people's feelings at the cost of your own well-being. You can explain with grace, you can communicate with care, but you must stand firm in what is true for you. Boundaries are not meant to please others. They are meant to preserve your inner clarity. The more clearly you define your boundaries, the more others begin to respect them. It may not happen instantly, and some relationships may even fade because of it. But what remains will be real. What remains will be built on mutual respect and authentic presence. You will stop attracting those who only value you for what you give, and you will start attracting those who honor who you are. This is one of the quiet gifts of boundaries. They refine the quality of your relationship. Even in spiritual or emotional work, boundaries are essential. Just because someone is in pain does not mean you must absorb it. Just because someone is broken does not mean you must be their healer. You can hold space without holding their burden. You can witness their suffering without becoming entangled in it. This is the power of a conscious boundary. It lets you be there without losing yourself. It allows you to love without dissolving your own structure. There is a misunderstanding that boundaries are rigid, inflexible, or a sign of emotional detachment. But true boundaries are alive. They shift with your growth. They evolve as your awareness deepens. They are not rules written in stone, but reflections of your present inner clarity. Sometimes your boundary may soften when you are in a place of great strength. Other times it may tighten when your energy is low or your inner space needs solitude. There is no formula, only the ongoing task of listening deeply to what your system needs to remain whole. To set a boundary is to value your life, to respect your time, your energy, your peace. And when you value these things, you begin to offer yourself to the world in a more meaningful way. You are no longer scattered or exhausted. You are centered, and from that center, real help can arise, real presence, real service, not out of guilt, not out of pressure, not out of emotional compulsion, but out of stillness, choice, and love that has its roots in clarity. There are people who only come to you when they need something. You won't hear from them when their life is moving smoothly, when the sun is shining on their path, or when they are surrounded by joy. But the moment there's a cloud in their sky, a crack in their plans, or a void in their life, suddenly they remember you. They come not out of connection, but out of convenience. This pattern is not rare, and it is not always malicious. Sometimes it's unconscious, but it reveals something important about how they see you, not as a person, but as a resource. It begins subtly. They might reach out with warmth, with a story of struggle, with an emotional appeal. You respond because that's who you are. Someone who listens, who shows up, who offers what they can. You think they must really trust me, or they must value me. But over time, a pattern emerges. Every conversation has a purpose that benefits only them. Every interaction ends with a request. There's little space for your voice, your experience, your needs. They speak and you listen. They take and you give. This kind of one-sided relationship drains you quietly. You don't notice it at first because you may enjoy being needed. There's a certain sense of importance that comes from being the one others turn to. But if that need is not balanced with genuine care, respect, or reciprocity, it becomes an invisible transaction. They come when they need comfort, support, money, validation, or help solving a problem. But when you need something, maybe just presence, maybe just a listening ear, they are nowhere to be found. Helping someone once is kindness. Helping them every time they're in trouble can be generosity. But being used as an emotional emergency service with no relationship in between, that is not help. That is being reduced to a function. When someone only shows up when they want something, they are not seeing you clearly. They are not relating to you as a full human being. They are seeing you as a shortcut, a solution, a temporary relief. And if you continue to allow it, you teach them that this behavior is acceptable. It is not that people must always give back equally. Life does not operate on a strict ledger of balance. But there must be sincerity, there must be awareness, there must be a sense that the connection exists beyond the moments of need. A relationship that only activates during crisis is not a relationship. It's an arrangement. And arrangements, unlike relationships, do not nourish the soul. They serve a function, and when that function is no longer needed, they disappear. When you are always available to someone who only comes with need, you become part of their escape pattern. Instead of facing their situation, growing through it, or finding inner strength, they rely on you to ease the discomfort. You become a cushion, not a catalyst. And sometimes that cushion delays their growth. It keeps them from learning how to stand on their own. People who constantly seek help without reflection rarely change. They repeat the same patterns, the same mistakes, and each time they return expecting the same support. If you ask them to be there for you, if you express your own needs, they might become distant, disinterested, or even defensive. Because in their mind, the dynamic is fixed. You are the helper, they are the helped. This is the silent contract they have created. Any shift in that equation feels uncomfortable to them. They are not prepared to hold space for you. They are not here for mutual growth. They are here for relief, and only when it suits them. There is no anger in recognizing this. It is just clarity. You are not judging them. You are observing the pattern. And once you see the pattern, you have a choice. You can continue hoping they will change, hoping they will one day see you fully, or you can create distance, not with resentment, but with understanding. Some people are not meant to walk beside you. They are meant to pass through, to take what they need and to move on. It is not your duty to keep refilling someone who never looks to refill themselves. Even kindness has to be conscious. Even compassion must have intelligence, otherwise it becomes indulgence. Not for you, but for the one who continues to take without awareness. When you say no to someone who only comes to you when they want something, you are not closing your heart. You are protecting your energy. You are honoring the fact that you are more than just a solution to someone else's problem. Relationships must breathe on both sides. They must allow space for both people to speak, to be heard, to be seen. If you are constantly shrinking your needs to make space for someone else's, the relationship is not alive. It is a one-way channel. And one-way channels eventually go dry. It is not unkind to stop giving when giving is being used. It is not cruel to withdraw when presence is being demanded, not appreciated. You are not here to be anyone's fallback option. You are here to walk your own path with grace and to share it with those who truly walk beside you. There are people who thrive on drama, who live in a state of constant conflict, confusion, and emotional chaos. For them, peace is unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. They are not used to stillness, not drawn to clarity. If things become too calm, too balanced, they will unconsciously stir the waters. They will create a disturbance, pick a fight, or invent a crisis. Not always out of malice, but out of habit. Their nervous system is addicted to stimulation, and their mind has been trained to expect struggle. When you try to help such people, especially by offering stability, they often reject it or twist it into something else. You may reach out with a solution, but they are not looking for solutions. You may offer presence, but they crave intensity. You may offer silence, but they want reaction. These individuals often mask their unrest as passion, their instability as depth. But if you look closely, it is not passion, it is restlessness. It is not depth, it is disorder. When you step into their world, trying to bring light, what you often encounter is resistance. They may pretend to seek help, but what they actually want is attention, sympathy, or someone to join their chaos. Trying to help someone who feeds off drama is like pouring water into a basket. No matter how much you give, nothing is held. Your time, your energy, your care, they all leak through the holes of their discontent. And what's more, the more involved you become, the more entangled you get. Their problems become your problems. Their emotions start spilling into your space. Their fights, frustrations, and fears begin to shape your mood, your decisions, your peace of mind. You start reacting to things that were never yours in the first place. These people often live through stories. They carry narratives of betrayal, of injustice, of being misunderstood. And each time something goes wrong, they add another chapter. If you try to challenge the story even gently, you become the antagonist. You are no longer the friend or supporter. They now see you as someone who doesn't understand them, someone who invalidates their pain. But if you go along with the story, if you feed into their emotional theater, you become complicit in their cycle. Either way, peace does not grow, growth does not happen. People caught in constant drama often attract similar energy around them. Their relationships are filled with highs and lows, with intensity and collapse. If you are a grounded person, their presence begins to shake your foundation. You start justifying their behavior, tolerating their unpredictability, making space for their volatility. And slowly, without knowing it, your boundaries blur. You start to think that this is normal, that maybe this is what connection is supposed to feel like. But connection without calmness is not sustainable, and love without clarity becomes confusion. They may even turn their drama into identity. It becomes their way of relating to the world. If they are not in some kind of conflict, they feel disconnected. If something isn't falling apart, they feel irrelevant. Their stories give them purpose, even if that purpose is painful. They fear resolution because resolution would mean facing the emptiness underneath. It would mean sitting with themselves in stillness, and for some, that is unbearable. They have not yet made peace with who they are without the noise. Helping someone in this state requires not just compassion but distance. You must learn to observe without being pulled in. You must know when to offer presence and when to step back. Trying to rescue someone who clings to their chaos will only exhaust you. It will not lead to change, it will lead to confusion. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to hold your center, to refuse to dance in their storm. This does not mean abandonment, it means alignment. They may accuse you of being cold or uncaring, but this is only because they interpret love as intensity. They are used to relationships that burn bright and burn out. When you do not react, when you do not participate in the escalation, they see it as detachment. But in truth, it is strength, it is restraint, it is the understanding that peace cannot grow in soil that is constantly being torn apart. Real love does not need fireworks. It needs roots. If you are someone who naturally wants to help, who is drawn to bring comfort and clarity, people who live in chaos may find you. They are drawn to your stillness, to your grounded presence. But if they are not ready to shift, they will eventually try to shake that stillness. Not intentionally, but inevitably, because your peace reminds them of their inner unrest. Your clarity reflects their confusion, and not everyone is ready to face that contrast. It is easy to believe that with enough love, enough patience, enough effort, you can calm the storm inside another person. But storms do not come from the outside. They settle only when the person is willing to step out of the wind, to put down the stories, to listen to the silence within themselves. Until then, any help you offer is just temporary shelter, and sometimes even that shelter is not appreciated. To truly support someone who is caught in drama, they must first want something different. They must feel tired of the cycle. They must seek stillness, not stimulation. Until that shift happens within them, your role is not to fix or rescue, it is to stay anchored in your own center. Because when the storm finally passes, they may look around for what remains unmoved, and if you are still there, rooted and calm, they may finally begin to understand what real support looks like. In life, the act of helping is not always straightforward. It requires discernment, wisdom, and the ability to recognize when our help is genuinely benefiting someone and when it may be enabling destructive patterns. The key to offering true support is knowing that not everyone is ready for help, not everyone values it in the same way, and not every form of assistance is truly helpful. There are people who need to face their own consequences, people who thrive on chaos, people who take without giving, and people whose needs will drain you if you aren't careful. Ultimately, the most powerful help you can offer is not always in action, but in knowing when to step back, set boundaries, and preserve your own energy. True assistance comes not from constant intervention, but from creating space for growth, encouraging self-reliance, and knowing that your own peace and clarity must come first. In recognizing these patterns, we learn to give from a place of strength rather than obligation, and to love in ways that promote real healing, growth, and transformation, both for ourselves and for those around us.